Publishing your listing online is very simple. In a few clicks everything is ready and you can start to get more bookings. But are we really sure that is all so simple? Of course not. Who approach the short-term rental market for the first time can make mistakes, sometimes due to inexperience, sometimes due to lack of knowledge. That's why in this video I decided to summarize the 5 most common mistakes that host makes and that you shouldn't make. My name is Matteo Ceccaroni, I'm a property manager and consultant in the short-term rental business, and I help owners to earn more money. If you like to optimize your business, I remind you that on the Turidea International website you will find training courses, tools, private calls and everything you need for the vacation rental market. And now let's get it started.
Turidea International. Improve your short-term rental business.
One of the things I insist more in my consultancy is a correct pricing strategy. In fact, one of the most impacting elements on the customer choices, perhaps the most important, is the rate to be paid for the stay. Therefore, one of the most common mistakes that a host shouldn't make is setting an amount without having analyzed all the components that determine it. The most classic mistake is setting a price that is considered right basing on a feeling. Unfortunately, the market does not work in this way, and most importantly, it is made up of a very diverse audience of people. In other words, on one hand, it is difficult to have a priori a general view of what surrounds us, and on the other hand, not everyone thinks like you. For example, if you give a great value to the panoramic position of your apartment, a potential guest could give more importance, for example, to the difficult path required to get to your apartment. In short, setting a fair price is complicated. In general, some elements must be taken into account. Quantity and quality of the competitor around you. Basically, it is necessary to accurately individuate the listing similar to yours in the surrounding and correct the price according to the diverging characteristics. Seasonality. The demand variation during the year must be known in advance with precision, otherwise there is a risk of responding late to increases or decreases in demand, with the result in the first case of selling off and in the second case of going out of business. If you offer more than your competitors, then it is right to ask higher prices and vice versa. The second error you must avoid is about communication. When I talk about communication, I refer especially to 2 aspects. On one hand, you must know how to communicate with the guest before, during and after the stay, but on the other hand, you must be able to transmit the value of your accommodation even before a booking in a correct way. Let's go in order. Communication is essential and you must be sure to convey to the guest over and over again all the essential characteristics related to his visit. Many of the bad reviews are related to surprises that the guest face on site. Maybe the host didn't want to hide them, but simply failed to communicate them. This also applies to information that are clearly reported in the listing, but perhaps the traveler in a hurry has overlooked. An example is the tourist tax. Despite you indicated it in the listing, I always recommend to repeat it after the booking and before the arrival. It is also very important the ability to convey the characteristic of the apartment in an appropriate way. The description, especially on Airbnb, should be complete and written in a way that invites visitors. Another error you should make attention at is about the response speed. It is an element much appreciated not also by visitors, but also by websites like Airbnb or Booking.com. This response speed should be less than 1 hour. The response speed is the time between a guest inquiry and your response. Why is it so important? Well, because many guests need some information before booking. If these clarifications are late, they are more likely to look for something else. This is bad also for a portal like Airbnb or Booking, because this increases the risk that a user leave the website and go to choose a listing somewhere else. This is why, to increase your ranking, it is extremely useful to be quick. I always recommend also to carefully analyze the guest reviews. In my experience of property manager, I realized that the opinions that the guests give to an accommodation should never be underestimated. Too often, owners extol the compliments received and minimize criticism. Nobody likes to be challenged, of course, but guest feedback is a very useful tool to understand what can be improved. It is true that every guest is different and some details could be highlighted on the basis of a personal taste. But if you see that a criticism is repeated many times, then it is good to take it very seriously. For example, if a guest writes that the shower pressure is a bit low, it could be a personal observation. Maybe at his home this guest has a very powerful pressure. But if 2 or 3 other guests observe the same thing, then we must act promptly, because beyond our point of view, this element represents a problem and must be solved. The last thing that in this video I ask you to pay attention at is legislation. I always explain to my customer that starting a short-term rental business without knowing the necessary requirements can lead to penalties. This is why it is essential to know well what the local regulations are, also because this regulation can be different from state to state, but also from municipality to municipality. Very well, we are at the end of this video. If you like to improve your business, remember that on the Turidea International website you will find different services such as courses, private calls, tools, market analysis and so on. I remind you also that by subscribing to the Turidea International channel and activating the notification, you will always be updated on all upcoming videos. Thanks for watching and see you next time.